Hi, everybody. It's Silas Knowles again. It's Sunday. You know what time it is. It's time for the PB podcast. Get you guys hyped up for the week with educators, administrators, superintendents. I just did my first week at school. It was interesting to say the least. We'll get into it in a little bit. But today on the podcast, we have Dr. Allison Slade. She has a giant title to her name, so I'm going to move over here and read it because it's long but appropriate. So, Clinical Assistant Professor and Director of Instructional Leadership Program and Strategic Initiatives. I hope she doesn't have a nameplate because you would probably have to have two. That's a very, very long title, but well-deserved for her. We're going to talk to her about her collaboration on the book for the 100 Stop series, some of the things she's passionate about. And I think what is really interesting is she started her own charter school. So I think that's something a lot of us can all take a look at and kind of be like, So you know what time it is, guys. It's time to go. It's showtime.
We come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Guys, welcome. It's the PB Podcast. My name is Silas Knowles on Twitter at ZVPirate. It's Sunday. It's a beautiful day outside, and whatever you're doing, if you're watching, if you know an educator, you know a teacher, you might benefit from some great information, some words of wisdom from teachers, administrators, educators, whatever the case may be. Share this around. This is going on Facebook, YouTube. It will be an audio podcast as well. So just a little bit piece of business. We are pushingboundaries.com. pushboundconsulting.com. This was in the title runner as we began. We have 22 professional consultants can cover all your needs. That's what they look like. That's what's listed. So definitely, especially this week, guys, with people coming back to the building, social emotional learning, certification, technology and innovation, leadership support, coaching, training. We're all authors, trainers, coaches, and PD specialists. Please contact us at our Gmail address, our phone number, or our website at pushboundconsulting.com. So it's been fun. SEL is basically the name of the game, guys. These students have been coming back. It's been a really weird time. We have a lot of enthusiasm at our school as well as probably yours. People are, the kids are back. We're all very happy. We're all very excited. And it's, when the kids got back, that excitement that the teachers have didn't really match what the students had because we're asking them to come back and they're like, we'd rather be sleeping. Truth be told, a lot of teachers rather be sleeping too, but they got 8-hour days. Wow, 8-hour days. Come on. But you know what? It is what we do. Got to get back into it. A lot of people are going to start this week, the week after. So one thing that you need, though, I got to tell you, one thing that you need coming back to school is this book, 100 No-Nonsense Things That All Teachers Should Stop Doing. This is the book for the fall. This is the book that you all need in your professional development library. Now, don't take my word for it. Our crazy leader, Dr. Rick Jetter, has his own things to say. And let's take a listen to his latest episode on the 100 Stop series. He gets a little passionate, guys, but you know what? His passion is infectious. Let's take a look.
All right, friends, look at. Oh my God, the 100 Stop series, book one for teachers, came out in May. It's been 3 months, almost 3 months, and the thing is still off the charts. It's unbelievable. And book number 2, wait do you see the lineup that we have for book number 2. Where do you see these authors? These people are all over the nation, all over the world. They're unbelievable. They're going to write book 2 for school leaders. And then there's a parent one in the mix. And we've already started getting people who are like, Rick, we couldn't get into the other 2 books. Can we get into the third one for parents? It says, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of authors who are writing these things. Not me, not just me. This isn't a Rick Jutter thing. And wait till you see the series. It's crazy. But right now, look at book 1 for teachers. It's out. Grab it. It's super cool. Look at it. It's not a lot of money. We're using the royalties for the other books in the series. It's going to get everybody together on the same page. Book 2's coming out soon. Oh my God, the lineup is crazy. Book 3 for parents. I can't even explain this. It's beyond me. It is beyond me. And it should be beyond me. We are pushing boundaries. We do things that no one else does. Follow us. Pushboundconsulting.com. We'll do stuff for free. This isn't about money. This is about getting everybody together. Let's rock and roll. Let's rock this world, man. The pandemic, take a hike. We've got this. Rock on.
Like I said, Dr. Allison Slade, he's pretty passionate. What do you think?
No joke, but important stuff.
It is important stuff. Dr. Allison Slade, thank you so much for being here today. Roosevelt University instructor, leader. What is your title? Tell me your title. It's very long. I know it's very long. What is your title?
Well, my main role at Roosevelt is that I run the instructional leadership master's degree. So we certify principals, right? So practicing teachers come and they're getting their principal license while they teach. We put them through a full year-long internship, and then they get their principal license. But because I do lots of different kinds of things, I'm also in charge of several strategic initiatives that we have around the principal and teacher pipeline for diversity and also for alternative certification. So the idea that teacher education in its traditional form really doesn't prepare teachers or leaders for what they are going to encounter in their sort of real life profession. And we're trying to use some alternative methods there. And then I have a really exciting role this fall in managing a new project where we are starting a tutoring program in the Chicago public schools, where we're taking our recent college grads, those history majors and those psych majors and, that sort of haven't found their spot yet, aren't certified teachers. And we're putting them in classrooms and putting them to work with our students that really need, some extra one-on-one attention from teachers at a time that, as you mentioned at the beginning, that SEL is really critical. And so we're really looking for people to make those connections with students.
Yeah, I think this year, about other years, obviously the relationship piece is key because, kids, whereas kids have phones in their hand, they can, Google anything we say, but if we don't make it meaningful, what's the point? What's the point? But one connection that I found with Dr. Slade is I graduated from Roosevelt University. And to be honest, Dr. Slade was not there when I was there, but I'll be honest with you, with my going from teaching, my student teaching experience, and I have a student teacher, and going from that experience to the professional world, it's like we didn't talk about Danielson at all. No Danielson. So I was blindsided by that. And the fact that I walked in and my mentor teacher said, okay, you got all the books? Yeah, it's about that thick, whatever the case may be. He goes, throw them all away. And they mean nothing because you go into the profession, they have pedagogies that are been done 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and teaching has changed so much, especially this year. And it's just the things that worked before don't really work now.
Right. Exactly.
What do you think about how things have changed so much being in your position, how student teaching and teaching have changed especially over the past 5 years? Does that affect your position where you're at Roosevelt?
Oh, definitely. One of the things I've tried to bring to Roosevelt since I got there was this alternative mindset. I actually have no degrees in education until I finished my doctorate. I have a bachelor's degree in Spanish and Latin American studies. I have a master's degree in public policy. All of my teaching and administrative certification is done through alternative methods. So I did them in other states and then transferred them over. And so I think it's funny that I'm actually in higher ed now, because I have never gone through a traditional teacher or principal prep program. And so I think my view is really different and in higher ed. And I really think that the most important thing that I've brought thus far is the idea that practicing teachers, practicing coaches, practicing principals are the ones that need to be teaching our future leaders. We can't be sort of sitting in an ivory tower, so to speak. We have to be on the ground and doing the work in schools to be teaching the people that are going to be coming out of these programs and be successful, right, leading schools. So I'm pretty proud of the work that we've done thus far, sort of rewriting our program to be a little bit more culturally responsive, inclusive, representative. The texts we use weren't written in 2002, 2008, 2010. They're contemporary. And, I look forward to using our new book that I was honored to be a part of with Dr. Jetter, in our classes coming up, especially the school leader one that's going to be coming out next, because, my main role is really preparing school leaders. And I always tell the aspiring principals, they're like, what is a typical day as a principal? And I say, there's no typical day as a principal, right? For 14 years, I was a school principal, and I can tell you for sure, I never had a day that was the same as the day before, right? And so we really need our leaders and our teachers to be flexible, able to, sort of mold themselves to what comes to them, and not sort of have a preconceived notion of what they're going to do in the classroom that day or as a school leader that day, and really be responsive to what the students need.
So this is a transition, speaking of the book, The 100 No Nonsense, by the way, cheap plug, and, you always got to cheap plug the project, but that's the book. Go to Amazon, get it. It was #1 all over the place. I still believe it is #1 continuously. So and again, like Dr. Jetter said, not a lot of money. So one thing I do want to ask is your chapter, your contribution was very interesting to me. Using social media to look and feel good about yourself. Tell me about where you came up with the content of your chapter, because one thing teachers do is we use social media a little bit, but sometimes too much. And I know where you're coming from with the title of your chapter. So tell us what went into the chapter, what went into the forming and the content.
Yeah, well, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I think many people have that love-hate relationship as well. And, I'm grateful to it because it connected me to Dr. Jetter and to this project for sure. And I do a lot of sort of snooping for new education articles and, pioneers, that kind of thing. But I think, I heard this quote one time that was something like, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides, right? And what's on social media is other people's outsides, right? It's what they choose to show. It's the perfect hairdo. It's the perfect, teaching day. It's the perfect paper that was written. And I think when you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, as a typical leader or typical principal, it can make you feel really bad, right? Because you're thinking about all of the mistakes that you make every day, all the things you still need to learn, and you're looking at everyone else's perfection. And so I'm a real proponent of using social media to ask honest questions, talk about mistakes that you've made, think about, connect with others that have made those same mistakes, and figure out how to keep getting better all the time. And I would love if more people, right, used social media for those purposes. Because like I said, it's hard to compare your insides, right, what you know and feel, with other people's sort of perfection out there.
I mean, yeah, it's the kids, even teachers. I mean, it's like they use social media sometimes very well, like the 100 Stop Series community. Dave Jeter, Dave, excuse me, I just said Dave Jeter. He's going to kill me. Dave Burgess, yeah. Rick Jeter, people like that using it for the proper way. And then there's others that are using it just to hype up their ego, hype up whatever they do. And it's really sad. But, I do agree. And sometimes people use social media to rant about personal things on the job that they shouldn't be. And, they're like, hey, look what I did. I'm like, yeah, you're stupid. Look what you did. It's just, you're stupid. You just put your whole business out on the street, and, now you are probably going to be looking for another job soon. It doesn't, I don't understand, but I do appreciate, you using that chapter to kind of, craft what it should look like and everything else. Have you seen anyone, like, either in your work, because I know we'll talk about your charter school experience in a minute, but have you ever seen anyone in your experience with working with other teachers or leaders that use social media for evil, like to put into your chapter, like anyone using social media to really look good, feel good about themselves, but at the end of the day, it really turned out bad for them?
I don't know if it's turned out bad yet, but the people that I wrote about, I think I have sort of two case studies, the FOMO teacher, right, and the narcissist. Those are actually real people. I did not use their real names, but those are real people in my education world and education space, where I just wish that all of the things that we project and promote about leadership these days, being vulnerable, right, continuous learning, all of those things, I wish that was more prevalent, right, as opposed to let's take pictures of ourselves and post them. I'd love to post like a failure and say, who can help me do this better next time, right? Because that's how we continually improve. So that's sort of, why I was really interested in this topic in particular.
Excellent. So going through social media, and I think this is an interesting transition of talking about this next question I have for you. I do research on everyone I talk to, and I came across something I need to ask. Can I ask? I mean, there is something I found. I mean, what's that all about? You're shaking hands with the man. You're shaking hands with Billy. I mean, what happened there? I mean, you met the man?
I did. If you show the picture again, I'll tell you that my husband asked when I got home where his other hand was. So that was fun to answer. He was great. He was such a nice guy. This was one of my proudest moments as a school founder and principal, I will tell you. As the principal and founder of Namaste Charter School, which is actually started last week, its 18th year of operation. So I started the school in 2004. And it was started as a school really focused on health and wellness. So the idea that you could build academic rigor into a school that really took care of kids' minds, bodies, and spirits. Everyone says that now, but in 2004, that was really like a novel idea, right? There was really no such thing as SEL or social emotional standards. We didn't have Michelle Obama's Let's Move. We had, really less than desirable school lunches, things like that. And we're really proud of sort of the school we built, really focused on health and wellness as the base instead of an add-on. And in 2014, when that picture was taken, Namaste won the Gold Award from the Alliance for Healthier Generations program. And with that award, there were only 6 schools that year honored across the country. And we were one of the 6. And so the 6 school leaders got to meet the man, as you say.
by the way, for the people who might be listening to this on audio, we're referencing Bill Clinton. So just to make sure everyone knows, if you're listening on the audio podcast, by the way, we are an audio podcast. Search us out, PB Podcast, Pushing Boundaries. It'll come right up on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Google Play. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so Bill Clinton, continue.
Yeah. So that was very exciting. We got to meet Bill Clinton. We actually went to Arkansas to where his presidential library is and his foundation is headquartered. And it's a big conglomeration of schools that get lots of awards. But because we got the highest award at the time and there were only 6 schools, we were very honored to be able to meet him, get to share our successes. Yeah.
You don't usually come across teachers and educators and leaders that like met Bill Clinton. It's like, it's one of those things I'm just like, ooh, I need to ask about this because I need the story. So talking about your awesome experience at a charter school, like how do you start one? Like you started a whole school. Like, I think that's awesome and like mind overwhelming at the same time when I think about it. Like, how do you start? Like what made you want to start a school?
I said, like, lots of people ask this question, and every time they ask the question, I say the same thing. Like, if I knew then what I know now, I don't know if there would be a Namaste charter school, but I'm glad there is because it's serving 500 students on the southwest side of the city and really pushing those students to be the best that they can in every sense. So, when I started teaching, I got into it sort of alternatively, right, by mistake, so to speak. And after I did my master's degree in public policy, I decided, you know what, I actually want to teach again. I want to go back into the classroom. So I taught in an area in the suburbs of Chicago, not too far from where you are, Silas, where there was a very, very high per pupil spending amount, because all my other teaching was done in the inner city, where the excuse was always money. We don't have enough money to do that. We don't have enough money to do that. So I decided to go see really what all the money was about. And I went and I taught in a place where there was a lot of money. And what I realized through that teaching experience was money does not matter that much. So using it as an excuse was, when I went out there, it was interesting. Like, it was one of the best schools in the state of Illinois. And the teaching that I saw there was not representative of pushing boundaries, right? It wasn't representative of doing new things. And
I have an idea, knowing you know where I live, I have an idea. It's about, hold on, I'm not going to say the name. It's about 20 minutes away from me.
Probably,
maybe 20. Yeah. And okay, I think we're right there.
Yeah. So, there was nothing bad going on, but there was nothing like revolutionary. Like, I went there in, must have been like early 2000s, and they didn't know what guided reading was, and they didn't do, they just had very traditional teaching techniques and and I reflected on my own upbringing too, right? Very traditional, seats and rows and, all of those kinds of things. And I just realized that money really wasn't what produced wonderful outcomes for those students, right? It was their socio-emotional status that really helped them along. And so I used to get together with, teachers that I taught with in the city. And we said, like, if we could make the perfect school, what would we do? And so we just started writing stuff down, and we're like joking around. And then in 2003, the Chicago Public Schools opened an RFP, a request for proposals for new charter schools, which had not been open in several years, because at that time there was a 15 charter school cap in the city. And they opened the cap to be 30 at that time. So we did it. We went through and we wrote, could probably find it back there, a spiral bound. I mean, this is in 2003. So we were like printing it on our maybe dot matrix printer, but I think it was maybe a little higher than that, right? Going to Kinko's at 2:00 in the morning to get it bound.
I remember those days.
Right. There were no such thing as zip files then, right? So We had to print these huge binders with 1,000 attachments. And we really just like wrote everything that we wanted in our school. So we took best practices from other places, right? Like balanced literacy framework and experiential math, guided math ideas, experience-based science, embedded social studies. And we combined it with what we called our Healthy Lifestyles program. The idea that kids need to be healthy and active in order to perform better in the classroom. And so completely rewriting PE curriculum, thinking about how do we nourish the mind, body, and spirit. We wrote a Peaceful People Tools curriculum for kindergarteners where we taught them how to solve problems peacefully, create their own space bubbles so they weren't bumping into other people's space bubbles, right? Kindergarten kinds of things. And to our extreme surprise, CPS said, "This is interesting. We think you guys should start a school." And so
but what did you think of after they gave you that response? You're like, yeah.
Yep. You got to find a building. You got to renovate that building to meet building code. I learned a lot of things about amps of power and what you need to have a cooler and a heater for lunch and all of these different things. It was very interesting. I recruited students by going to the park and trying to find kids that looked like they were 5 or 6 and then going to their parents and being like, "Is that your child?" And they scared me a little bit, right? And so it was all a very interesting experience. And I would say what makes it all worth it is that the students that started at Namaste graduated from college last year. It was the first graduating class. And I actually hired my first student from Namaste that graduated from Roosevelt to do some work for me this summer. So it's really exciting to sort of see. When you're a high school teacher, I think you sort of see the fruits of your labor a little earlier sometimes. But when you're a kindergarten teacher and a school that starts as kindergarten and first grade, it takes a real long time. And sometimes you lose a little steam, but it's so exciting to see these students now. They're not students, they're adults. And what they've been able to make of themselves.
Very cool. I mean, that's awesome. And be able to see that trajectory from very little all the way through. It's just, it's mind blowing. So now when it comes to the collaborate, are you part of book 2? May I ask?
I am not part of book 2.
Oh, boo.
But I may be part of book. I don't know what the school board one is, what number that is, but as the president of my local school board, I have lots of things to say about school boards. Both as a parent and as a school board member now. So I'm hoping to contribute to that one. There's
Dr. Jetter has made many references to soccer coaches and like making soccer tryout cuts with a clipboard. I think the first book he made a reference to 746 people wanting to be in the first book and had to cut it down. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the second book. So it's been an interesting thing. But if Dr. Jetter was to give you an opportunity to give you a second chapter, what would it be called? What would you write about?
Let's see. I guess these days, I'm thinking about a couple things, right? I am a constant learner, and I just feel like I would say something like, stop using your terminal degree or your title. You referenced my title being super long, right? Stop using those terminal degrees and titles to, as an excuse to stop learning, or to sort of think that, you know everything. I think the one thing that I've learned over my, 25 years in the field of education is that you can always learn something from everyone. And so I really try to take that to heart in all of my interactions, especially as a professor, right? And learn from my students as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And By the way, for anyone who's jumping on, I see viewers going up and going down. This is Dr. Allison Slade. We're talking about collaborations on the 100 book, and things she's doing in the city of Chicago through Roosevelt University. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to drop them into the Facebook live stream or wherever you're watching it from. More than happy to talk to you. More than happy to answer anything you might want to share, put out there, whatever the case may be. So you have kind of a mission statement when it comes to your job. And just so anyone out there, non-educational or educational, might ask, you have this thing where you want to diversify the teacher leader pipeline in public education. What does that mean?
So I think we all know in the state of Illinois that we are approaching a teacher pipeline crisis, right? There's not enough teachers entering the profession, right? And so that by 2025, we're not going to have enough teachers, right? In the state of Illinois and across the country, there's a major teacher shortage. That leads to a leader shortage, right? You got to be a teacher before you be a principal. So, we're really heading for a major challenge, right, in our country. And as I see it, I don't always see the right people going into leadership because they don't always have the right models of leadership in front of them. And so my goal is, through my work at the university, is to really diversify the teacher pipeline through these alternative certification programs, right? The idea that you don't have to go through traditional teacher ed to get a teaching license. How can we put these people through some kind of boot camp in a summer and get them in the classroom? They're in the classroom anyway. They're substitutes, they're teacher assistants, right? And they just need support and guidance to get there. And how can we have them sort of study and gain all those skills while they are teaching? So they can bring real life problems to those classes that they take every week and say, like, this is what happened in my classroom. What should I do different next time? Instead of, oh, my cooperating teacher did X, I would have done it like Y, right? So I really feel like there's some practice that needs to change in higher ed. And hopefully that will lead to different types of candidates, both ethnically, racially, socioeconomically, experience-wise. We want a real diversity of people entering that teacher pipeline. And then we really want to consider that as you go up and up in the ranks of education, right, it becomes more white and more male, right? 80 or 85% of the teaching force across the country is female, and 23% of superintendents are female, right? That's a problem, right? And so we have to figure out how to get more women, more historically underserved population, represented in our leadership, so that our students, many of whom come from those, more than 50% of students these days are girls, right? And, in the state of Illinois, we're almost majority minority population. And so we really need to have those representatives and for our kids to be able to see that anyone can become a leader.
Definitely. I mean, in my particular school, I worked in Rockford, I've worked in Belvedere, I've worked in Mundelein, I've worked in North Boone, and my current school in Zion, I mean, we have a low representation of Spanish-speaking teachers like myself and African teachers, but we're actually making, and which is great to see, we're actually making forward movement of seeking out teachers in leadership of diversity from just what you said, from all levels, from all things, not just racially or culturally, but of socioeconomic status, different leaders from different parts and, parts of schools and everything else. Because a leader from Rockford might lead differently than a leader from Stevenson or a leader from Elgin High School or whatever the case may be, just, because they're so diverse all the way. And our population is like 52% Hispanic and Caucasian is like at the 25%. So with 4%, I think 4 or 5% of being Latin, like Hispanic, it's, we need to have more people that the students see. And it's like, it's not saying anything bad, but everyone's like, well, what are you doing? It's like, well, we're trying to put leaders that look like the kids in front of, that they can strive to be better and strive to be, better at a level that they can all the way through. And a lot more people see it now than before, but I'm glad you're doing this work that, that can help on so many different levels and so many different things.
Yeah. And you mentioned the language. I think validating that language is really critical. I also am a fluent Spanish speaker, and I speak Spanish at every moment I possibly can to really help.
But Dr. Slade, but you're white. How can you do that? I mean, as you're Caucasian, how can you speak Spanish? I don't understand. Right. Can I ask where you learned, from your, did you travel or did you just learn?
I did. I lived in Santiago, Chile for a year. And then, yes. And then I started teaching bilingual students. So it's been a long time in the coming, but I think knowing language is so important. And, I think in the United States, we've come sort of, very focused on ourselves and not on others. And we want to elevate those languages and understand that knowing different language helps you in every language, right? It helps you just be a more well-rounded person and, be able to connect with and understand different kinds of people.
My family's from Guatemala. So I have that. My father was Caucasian, met my mother in the Peace Corps, and learned Spanish old school with a dictionary in the mountains of Guatemala, and met my mother and all sorts of things. He had a better accent than my mom. My mom would never tell you that. But he's like, he had a better accent than my mother speaking Spanish. And everyone would look at him and be like, you speak Spanish? And it's just like, yes, it's okay. But I think, I don't know about you, but I think we need to start a program. And you said Santiago, Chile, I'm from Guatemala, to have students either virtually or in person, go to these countries and see how bad it could possibly be. I went to Guatemala and it changed my mindscape on how people live and how much better I had it versus what it could be. And you see it. And I'm sure in Santiago, it was the same thing. There were certain parts of the area that you looked and you're just it culture shocked you to your bone. It just shocked you. And you're just like, wow. And you took that back with you and share those experiences. I do with my class all the time. You see people on the street, with cows just walking down the street, going to market or whatever the case is. And you're just hey, there's a cow walking down the street. What's going on over there? It's just. Yes.
I took a train in Peru when we were there traveling, and a chicken was sitting next to me. Actually, I think it was a turkey, actually. Live turkey had the seat next to me. So.
You're just oh, hi.
That was interesting. Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. Dr. Slade, where can we find you on social media if anyone wants to get in contact with you?
Oh, on Twitter, I think I am at Slade Rothstein. Yep, Slade Rothstein. There I am. And I think on Facebook, I'm Allison Slade. And you can always find me through the Roosevelt University website as well, and contact me there. So,
excellent. So, Dr. Slade, obviously, what you do is just so important. So, Pushbound Consulting, we thank you for what you do. Definitely, there's definitely people who are there to support and everything else, and especially in the Chicagoland area, where, as you know, the thermometer of wonderful things that are going on in CPS right now. It's just, I'm sure you are, that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day.
Yes, it is. Well, I will tell you, Silas, it has been such a joy, just getting to know Dr. Jetter a little bit and learning about pushing boundaries. Cause I feel like I told him during the first book writing, I've never sort of felt apart, right? I'm always doing my own thing because nobody's pushing boundaries, right? We're all okay with the status quo, and I'm not. So I really feel like I found a home with these 103 other authors, and I know the 100 new authors that we'll have in the next book as well. And I really do feel like this is building a movement. So it's so exciting.
It is. I felt the same way as well. I was always the one person who thought outside the box and tried to do things differently to try and engage students. And I thought I was the only one. And then I found Brick and Rebecca and, people like Dave Burgess and Tara Martin and Trevor Muir, people like that. And I knew that there was other people out there that thought the same way I do. I'm just like, wow, I'm not the only one who sees this. I can find a tribe of everybody else who feels this way. Yeah. And it made me feel better in education to I had my administrators telling me, you think outside the box, keep doing that, please. And I'm like, yes, sir. I'm like, not a problem. I'll do it for you. Okay. So for Dr. Allison Slade, my name is Silas Knowles, the ZB Pirate. We thank you again. And Dr. Slade, thank you so much. And I know we'll be talking soon, but we'll look for big things from you and Roosevelt and CPS coming up soon. I appreciate everything you do, and I know I can speak for Rebecca and Rick that we thank you for what you do for education.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been so fun.
Definitely. So I invite everyone to watch the greatest outro of podcasting history, I believe. So for Silas Knowles, the ZB Pirate, for the PB Podcast, and for Dr. Slade, what are you guys doing virtually or in person to push boundaries for your students? And just remember, guys, our kids need us. We got to be there. Dr. Slade, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Is anyone else seeing this? I got this. Oh, I got this. Okay, I don't got this. Help! Somebody help!
Hey, Queen. Heads up.
Hang on, I got you, kid. Hey, nice to meet you. Oh my God!
What the hell is this?
Friday, what are they firing at?
Something just entered the upper atmosphere.